I give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which in Hebrew are the wonderful names of the Creator, our Heavenly Father, I Am, which this world has named God, and His beloved anointed Son, which this world has named Jesus. I give honor, respect, and thanks to all the true, faithful, and sincere apostles, elders, prophets, and torchbearers of the nation of Israel, who have willingly endured and risked much to bring forth the truth. Thank you, brothers. In this chapter, we are continuing the conversation of the fourth horseman. It is currently the time of the fourth horseman. And before we get there, in the last chapter we discussed the first horseman and the second horseman. And in this chapter, we're going to discuss the third horseman so that we understand the time of the fourth horseman. This, as always, is a message to our brothers and sisters of the nation of Israel. The mighty nation of Israel being the so-called Negroes, the so-called Latins, Hispanics, and the so-called Native Americans. The first scripture we're going to in this chapter is the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 5. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So the third horseman is this black horse. So in the last chapter we discussed how the red horse signifies Esau's true nature, his true colors. This horse signifies Israel's true colors and true nature. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Well, first and foremost, everything the Father has created, it is one against another. There are two. It's good against evil, the godly against the sinner. So this is the point in Esau's rulership and his adulthood, where righteousness needs to put things back into balance, where the light must come into the world again. The book of Revelation, chapter 20, verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan. The devil meaning the deceiver, and Satan meaning the adversary, also the accuser. And bound him 1,000 years. And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. So, if we remember, Esau was given the blessing of breaking his brother's yoke off his neck, the yoke of servitude unto his brother, and that he would have the dominion for a while. Well, he took his dominion and ran rampant. Just ran rampant. There was war everywhere. And he was really beginning to believe that he was the Most High power. So he needed a timeout. Esau, Edom, Idumea, who are the rulers of this last wicked kingdom today, they needed a timeout. And so the Father put his spirit upon those of the nation of Israel that he had chosen and they took rulership of Europe. Israelites took rulership and put Esau, Edom, Idumea into the bottomless pit. Bottomless pits can be found in Europe because there are many places in Europe that do not have natural resources. Natural resources. You need natural resources in order to flourish. And many places in Europe didn't have these. And so we, as a nation, pushed Esau out of power and made them fend for themselves, showing the true power of the Father and what he had designed his children, and especially his servants, what he, Yahweh the Most High Power, the creator of heaven and earth, the creator of all things, the creator and destroyer, how he had designed many of the nation of Israel. Returning to the book of Revelation, chapter 6 and verse 5, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. So here to put things back into balance. Here to judge. Here to judge. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 25, verse 13. Thou shalt not have in thy bag diverse weights, a great and a small. Thou shalt not have in thine house diverse measures, a great and a small. But thou shalt have a perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure shalt thou have, that thy days may be lengthened in the land which Yahweh thy Most High Power giveth thee. For all that do such things, unjust weights and balances, and all that do unrighteously, are an abomination unto Yahweh thy Most High Power. We are to judge righteously. We are to judge righteously. We are to do everything in accordance with the law of the Father, and everything is to balance out to the Father's liking. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1, verse 16. This is our forefather, the prophet Moses. And I charged your judges at that time, saying, Hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother, and the stranger that is with him. So we are to judge first and foremost our brothers and sisters of the nation of Israel. And if there are strangers with them, we are to judge them righteously as well. Verse 17, Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is the Most High Power's. And the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. So many of the nation of Israel are designed to be judges, to judge righteously and fairly. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 18. Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which Yahweh thy Most High Power giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. So there are to be judges and officers in all the gates of the nation of Israel, which Yahweh thy Most High Power giveth us throughout our tribes, throughout the tribes of Israel. And they shall judge the people with just judgment. This is the will of the Father. This is the will of the Father. The book of the prophet Joshua, chapter 24, verse 1. And Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem, and called for the elders of Israel, and for their heads, and for their judges, and for their officers, and they presented themselves before the Most High Power. This is how important this job is. And this is who we work for. And this is who we serve. And this is who gives us our power. And this is who we honor. These are those that are accepted of the Father. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 25, verse 1, if there be a controversy between men, and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. This is the job of the judges. Then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. This is the job of the judges. The judges shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. This is why the seal was broken on the third horseman, to come put things back into balance for a while. Otherwise, the wicked would have consumed all things. All things. Destruction, utter destruction would have happened a long time ago. And we as a nation, as the nation of Israel, we know this to be a fact. When we go too far, we get checked. The book of Judges, chapter 2, verse 14. And the anger of Yahweh was hot against Israel, and he delivered them into the hands of spoilers that spoiled them. And he sold them into the hands of their enemies round about, so that they could not any longer stand before their enemies. Whithersoever they went out, the hand of Yahweh was against them for evil, as Yahweh had said, and as Yahweh had sworn unto them, and they were greatly distressed. So the Father's dealing with us first and foremost, and when we sin against him, he puts us in check. He rebukes us, he reproaches us, he disciplines us, he chastises us. Verse 16, nevertheless Yahweh raised up judges, which delivered them out of the hand of those that spoiled them. Verse 17, and yet they would not hearken unto their judges, but they went a-whoring after other powers, and bowed themselves unto them. They turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked in, obeying the commandments of Yahweh, but they did not so. This is how we make the Father angry with us. We don't listen unto his judges. We don't listen unto his prophets. We would rather follow men and women of the other nations. We would rather follow their customs and their values and their doctrines and their philosophies and their teachings, their morals, their unrighteous decrees, their abominable laws. We would rather follow that and bow down than serve our Father. We turn quickly off the Father's path, quickly, as a nation. All we have to do is obey the commandments of the Father. But we didn't want to do that. Verse 18, and when Yahweh raised them up judges, then Yahweh was with the judge, and delivered them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For it repented Yahweh, because of their groanings by reason of them that oppressed them and vexed them. So this is the love of the Father for the nation of Israel, that he would raise us up judges to come and guide us and speak plainly to us and speak lawfully to us, because the Father was with them. And through these judges, we were delivered time and time and time again. Does it upset the Father, hearing our agony and anguish from the bitter oppression that our enemies put upon us? There really is a righteous way to have someone in captivity. There's a righteous way to do it. And then there is an unrighteous way to have someone in captivity. And what we as the nation of Israel experience is that unrighteous captivity. And particularly with Esau, Edom, Idumea, it's oppressive because of the perpetual hatred. The perpetual hatred. So when those chosen of the Father, those of the nation of Israel who are chosen by the Father, judge in truth and in sincerity, they are judging on behalf of the Father. They are judging on behalf of the Father. The second book of Chronicles, chapter 19, verse 4, and Jehoshaphat, our forefather the king, and Jehoshaphat dwelt at Jerusalem, and he went out again through the people from Beersheba to Mount Ephraim, and brought them back unto Yahweh the Most High power of their fathers. And he set judges in the land throughout all the fenced cities of Judah, city by city. And he said to the judges, take heed what ye do, for ye judge not for man, but for Yahweh, who is with you in the judgment. This is how serious this job is. This is how serious this job is. So you have to understand how seriously Esau, Edom, Idumea had erred from what the Father has just set down as natural laws upon the earth, that the Father had to send in the third horseman. That Esau was so filled with pride and arrogance and blood that he needed a timeout. Verse 7, wherefore now let the fear of Yahweh be upon you. Take heed and do it, for there is no iniquity with Yahweh our Most High power, nor respect of persons, nor taking of gifts. The Father could care less who you are. If you are not serving him, if you are not serving him righteously, you have to be judged. And if you make the huge mistake of believing that he no longer exists, or that you are the Most High power, you have erred tremendously, and the Father has to check you. And this is why the third horseman was sent. And those who the Father has chosen and who judge in truth and in sincerity, they are speaking on behalf of the Father. The first book of Kings, chapter 3, verse 28. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king, our forefather King Solomon, had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of the Most High power was in him to do judgment, to do judgment. So again, we are in these physical vessels. What shall dwell in us? Now, there are many fruits of the Spirit, but when the Father calls us to do something, he will put his Spirit in us to be able to do that thing. So for those of the nation of Israel who have been called to judge, to lead and speak the law, and to resolve controversies, and to do nothing for their own bellies, and to do nothing for their own egos and pride and exaltation, but to stay in the law and keep the nation inside the law, and to judge all matters lawfully. For Yahweh is a righteous judge. Those of the nation of Israel feared because they understood that the Father was with them. And sure, you can lie to certain men and certain women. And sure, you can be wicked with certain men and certain women. But you know that when the Spirit of the Father is close, there is no lying, there is no cheating, and there is no hiding. And at the time of the third horseman, the Father needed to remind Esau, Edom, Idumea, as well as the other nations and families upon the earth, of who is in charge, and that is our Father, Yahweh, the Most High Power. Also to remind us, as the nation of Israel, if we're doing right by the Father, He has no need to punish us. The first book of Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 14. But the natural man, the man or woman that are in this flesh, carnal, sensual, they want to know all the desires and delicacies of this flesh. They want to follow the adversary and do as thou wilt, doing those things which are unlawful and unseemly. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of the Most High Power. The Father can't dwell in unclean vessels. So if you're doing abominably, wickedly, unrighteously, and you're unrepentant about it, the Spirit of the Father cannot dwell in you. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of the Most High Power, for they are foolishness unto him. The Most High Power who? The Most High Power who? Doing what? I'm in charge. I'm in control. I do it the way I want to do it. I do it when I want to do it. I do it how I want to do it. I could care less about the laws. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. So if you're all about this flesh, not only is the truth foolishness unto you, but you can't even hear them. You can't even see them. You can't discern them, because you won't make room in your vessel for truth and the Spirit of the Most High Power. You won't even make room to acknowledge Him, that He exists. Verse 15, but he that is spiritual judgeth all things, yet he himself is judged of no man. So if we are dealing with the Spirit of the Father, which is this word, His commandments, His statutes, and His laws to the best of our abilities while we are here in the last of our last captivity, the testimonies and the prophecies in this book, in this living word, obedience unto the Father and the Son, humility. But he that is spiritual judgeth all things, yet he himself is judged of no man. If we are doing that which is correct and pleasing unto the Father, and of course we are in the last of our last captivity, so we have to do this to the best of our abilities, but no man can judge us. We obey our Father. Let's prove that. First book of Corinthians, chapter 11, verse 31, for if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. For if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. Verse 32, but when we are judged, we are chastened of Yahweh, that we should not be condemned with the world. It's a very important part here. If we judge ourselves, then we don't have any need to be judged. If we are following what the Father set out for us, then we have no need to be judged. But if we slip from time to time, if we lose patience from time to time, if we show ignorance from time to time, the Father's going to chasten us because He loves us. But we have to believe in Him and seek Him for Him to deal with us through the Son. For Him to deal with us through the Son. But if we are all about this flesh and all about our earthly desires, then we have to be judged with this world. World meaning time frame, age, span of time. The time frame, age, span of time of this last wicked kingdom, which is ruled by the devil, filled with the spirit of Satan. You remember the devil are the rulers of this last wicked kingdom. This is why the anger of the Father gets so hot against us. He speaks to us through the prophets. He speaks through us through the judges. He's dealing with us. He's guiding us. He's making it as simple as it can possibly be. And for 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they want to ignore him completely. And this is why that second death of fire is going to be so intense. It's got to purify all of this resistance out. All of this resistance out. If we judge ourselves, no man can judge us. If you are a spiritual man, you can judge, but no one can judge you. Now, why is that? The book of St. John, chapter 5, verse 30. I can of mine own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father which hath sent me. This is how we judge ourselves. Am I doing the will of the Father right now? And if you don't know, being willing to pray for wisdom. Father, I'm not quite sure. Please guide me. If you have found the prophets, the brothers, the modern day prophets, the brothers who are out on the street at camp, the brothers who are giving classes, and the brothers who are online speaking this word in truth and in sincerity, the Spirit of the Father is dealing with you. You now have to discern what the Father's will for you is. But if you're hearing the truth, it's no mistake. It's not accidental. It's not accidental. If you're listening to it, then this is not foolishness to you. Somewhere in you it resonates. I can of mine own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father which hath sent me. As I hear. Well, we have to be listening to the Father to hear what he wants. The third horseman was sent into the world to remind the rulers at that time, and as always, because the Father's dealing with the nation of Israel first and foremost, us. But the third horseman was sent to remind Esau and the other nations upon this earth, the other families upon this earth, who is in charge. The second book of the prophet Ezra, chapter 7, verse 19. The books of Ezra can be found in the Apocrypha, which is the middle book of the King James 1611 Bible. This is our forefather, the prophet Ezra, speaking unto an angel of the Most High Power. And he, the angel of the Most High Power, said unto me, Ezra, there is no judge above the Most High Power, and none that hath understanding above the highest. So again, the seal was broken off on the third horseman to remind the rulers at that time, Esau, the other nations and families upon this earth, and of course us, the nation of Israel, who is in charge. There is no king above Yahweh. There is no power above Yahweh. And there is no judge above Yahweh. And pure wickedness can only be tolerated so long. So long. And so as they left many in Europe in just utter poverty, through these judges put them into poverty. The Father put them into a bottomless pit of no resources, and no power, and no authority, no influence, no notoriety, no fame. And because the Father's always working in twos, as he was showing Esau, Edom, Idumea, the power with which they could be brought down, he was also showing the nation of Israel the power that will bring them up, but also a position that has been ordained for the nation, a position that has been ordained for many of the nation of Israel, a position of real power. The Book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3, verse 8. They of the nation of Israel, particularly the 1/3, they shall judge the nations and have dominion over the people, and their Lord shall reign forever. Now that's power. And the Father was giving us a taste of that when the seal for the 3rd horseman was opened. Here is what is possible for you as a nation, wherever you go. They shall judge the nations and have dominion over the people, and their Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, shall reign forever. So not only is our King of Kings and Lord of Lords going to be on his throne down here on earth, but the King of all, Yahweh in heaven, shall have our backs forever. Forever. So, judging the nations upon the earth. The first book of Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 3. Know ye not that we, the nation of Israel, shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? If then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are least esteemed in the church. We're going to judge angels. So we have every right to judge things here upon earth. Remember, if we judge ourselves, we have no need to be judged of anyone. If then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are least esteemed in the church. Pick those who people don't like so much, because there is less chance that they will take gifts, that they will show favoritism. The word is judge, not friend. A judge is to hear all the facts and bring what is written forward. Righteous judgment. Also, if you look at the lies that Esau has deceived the whole world with, who is least esteemed in the church? The Israelites. We are the least esteemed. In his world, we are the least esteemed. So judges of nations, judges of angels. The Book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 1. Love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth. Think of Yahweh with a good heart, and in simplicity of heart seek him. Love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth. Judges of nations, judges of angels, judges of the earth. Think on Yahweh with a good heart. Meditate on the Father. Do his will. Honor him. Love him. Respect him. Acknowledge that he exists. Acknowledge that he sent his son as an amazing gift unto the nation. Acknowledge that he sends prophets unto the nation and judges unto the nation. Acknowledge his mercy. There are many organizations out there that represent themselves as the representatives of the Most High power. It is a blood thing. The Father has chosen the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's that simple. And if we understand this, and if we understand that the third horseman was in fact the judges of the nation of Israel, we understand that we as the nation of Israel are the true representatives here on earth of Yahweh the Most High power, the creator of heaven and earth, the creator of all things, the creator and destroyer. And we understand the power that we represent. The first book of the prophet Samuel, chapter 2, verse 8, He being our Father, Yahweh, whom we as the nation of Israel in our righteousness represent upon the earth. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are Yahweh's, and he hath set the world upon them. So, the Father can do anything. He can take the lowest of the low, rolling around in a pile of dung, and make them the highest of the high. Make them inherit the throne of glory, the truth of who we truly are, who we are unto the Father, and who the Father is unto us, the nation of Israel. Verse 9, He will keep the feet of His saints. The saints are the Israelites. The saints of the Most High power are the Israelites. And the wicked shall be silent in darkness, for by strength shall no man prevail. I don't care what the armies are. I don't care what the weapons are. I don't care how many mighty men you have. None can prevail against the word of the Father. Cannot be done. This flesh cannot defend against, much less attack, the creator of all things. Verse 10, The adversaries of Yahweh shall be broken in pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. Yahweh shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. This is how it works. In the end, the last kingdom, the eternal kingdom, world without end, Yahweh Shai sits on his throne here on earth. The earth, the nations, the angels being judged by the nation of Israel, meaning the Father, meaning the Spirit of the Father righteously in us. And we, as his people, righteously executing that which is his will. He will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. So, this is where we get the term, the Dark Ages. This was the time of the third horseman, the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages. He will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. He shut them up. Shut them up and put them in caves. Said, time out. Time out. For by strength shall no man prevail. Time out. And then the devil, who are the rulers of this last wicked kingdom filled with the spirit of Satan, those that run everything today, they know who the true judges of this earth are. And what did they try and do with this? The book of the prophet Job, chapter 9, verse 24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So they are the ones in rulership today. They were in rulership. They were in rulership at the time that the seal was opened for the third horseman, and they are in rulership today, currently. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. So in our original texts, in our original books, we had paintings and pictures of the Israelites, of our former prophets and our forefathers and foremothers, the kings, and we had paintings and pictures of our forefathers and our foremothers. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked, and the wicked have taken these photos and tried to cover up the face of them. This is why they call it whitewashing. Whitewashing. They try to erase us. Like we were never there. But we were. We were. We were in Rome. We were in Greece. We were all throughout Europe. We weren't naked savages dancing around in the middle of the jungle who had to be civilized. We were royalty. We were the powerful gladiators in the Colosseum, in the Roman Colosseum. We fought lions and tigers and bears and jaguars and whatever else they could think of. But also, as the Father said he would, we were put upon thrones. This is Septimius Severus. He was a Roman emperor. A man of color. They say he was from Africa. Africa's a huge place. Just like they say Israel is in the Middle East. Okay. One of the things that my brother Paul likes to say is that we were fighting the tigers and the lions and the bears and the Colosseums, and we were like, well, since we can defeat them, let's go defeat the Romans. Let's go defeat their armies and their leaders. This is the spirit that the Father put upon us. And we judged righteously. Lucius Septimius Severus, 146 to 211 AD, was a Roman emperor. His reign is notable for the militarization of the government, growing Oriental influences in society, and high development of civil law. Severus was an African from Leptis Magna, so dark-skinned man, Israelite. For the next 6 years, Septimius remained chiefly in Rome. His administrative activities included pay raises for the troops, whom he also allowed for the first time to marry while in service. Veterans were given rapid advancement in the civil service, and the bureaucracies became militarized. Italy's formerly preferred status in the empire was lessened, while favored status was given to many places in his native Africa and his wife's homeland in Syria. Severus appointed prominent jurists to high administrative posts and the appearance of a number of Rome's greatest legal names on the emperor's council brought a humane approach and increased protection for the humble in the legislation of the emperor. So he cared for the downtrodden and the humble, the fatherless, the widows. Judgment occurred. And just like that, an Israelite on the throne of power, on the money, ruling and judging. Ruling and judging. The Dark Ages began in 193 AD when Israelites began to rule in Rome, when Israelites began to rule the Roman Empire. And it lasted to 1453. So let's prove that real quick. The book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 3. And I will give power unto my two witnesses. Who are those two witnesses? The nation of Israel. Currently, we are two kingdoms. We are the southern kingdom of Judah and the northern kingdom of Israel. Two kingdoms. We are the two witnesses. We are the two witnesses of Esau's rulership and his oppression. And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. So we shall prophesy 1,260 days, beginning in 193, ending in 1453. We will say this is how it's going to go. This is what it will look like. This is what the Father's will is when your blessing is over Esau. Verse 4, these are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the Most High Power of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed, bringing judgment, righteous judgment to the earth, showing forth the Father's power and showing what shall occur upon this earth. All the while, humbled unto our Father, because we still have to endure the curses that the Father promised in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 16 through 68. Verse 6, these have the power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. Heaven on earth was closed to Esau, Edom, Idumea. They were cast into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Now, the time of the black horseman was 1,260 years, but it took time to grab the tail of that dragon. It took some time to grab the tail of that dragon. Verse 7, and when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them, and kill them. And this is what happened with the Renaissance, the rebirth of the beast, the government, the system of Esau, Edom, Idumea. His government, his systems of power. And this is what they do unto this day. This is what they do unto this day. Remember, it is the man, the beast, the dragon. They are all one. It's a man, his government, and his power. His systems of power. The book of Revelation, chapter 20, verse 1, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So yes, in the bottomless pit, at the bottom, for 1,000 years. It took some time to grab the tail of that dragon, which is a nation of people. Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. And this that we are in today is that little season. It's that little season. It is that little season. This is that little season. A little time more to deal with the man, the beast, and the dragon. But for anyone who believes that this last wicked kingdom cannot be taken down, it's already been proven by the judges. The Father sent his servants, and they took down one of the most powerful empires and kingdoms that the earth has ever seen, through the strength and the might of the Father, through his Spirit and his power. So yes, it will happen again. So we are indeed past the third horseman. It is the time of the fourth horseman. We will finish that up in the next chapter. The last scripture we're going to in this chapter is the book of the prophet Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 8. Now, we must remember that it is written, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So again, he would be loosed for a little season, a short time. So with everything that is occurring and everything that is going to occur, particularly in this next year, the year of the 6, we have to judge ourselves, which means to follow the will of the Father. We have to call on the Father's name through the Son. We have to call on the Father through the Son. And when we want to try and make something happen, we must remember this. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy, thermonuclear warfare, upon the wicked, the abominable, and the unrepentant. Now remember, not everybody of the other nations is an evil, wicked person, but judgment is coming upon this earth. Righteous judgment is coming upon this earth. And we must wait upon the Father through the Son. This is his victory. This is his glory. We are only to proclaim it and watch it. The judges of the earth came to visit, to put things in balance and in order, to do the will of the Father. The judges shall return with our head judge, Yahweh, King of Kings, Lord of Lords of the mighty nation of Israel, the heavenly host with him, and the 1/3 here upon the ground. By the way, the moment men started speaking this word in truth and in sincerity, judgment began upon this kingdom. Yes, it's been years and years and years since brothers started speaking this truth, but yes, that fire's kindled and it's cooking now. It's cooking. Glory is truly remembering who we are and who the Father has designed us to be. Make no mistake about it, World War III and the nuclear destruction of America are coming. It will coincide exactly with the return of our King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Savior, High Priest, and Brother, Yahushai. Thus saith Yahweh. Philippians 2, 9-11. Wherefore Yahweh also hath highly exalted him, and given him a name which is above every name, that at the name of Yahweh every knee shall bow, of things in heaven, and things in earth, and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Yahweh is Lord, to the glory of Yahweh the Father. As it is written, thus saith Yahweh, and nothing can stop it. This is a final warning, Israel. Shake off this world, remember who you are, and come home. All praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai.